I love movies. And the only thing I think I love more than movies is talking about movies. However, to talk about movies, you have to have someone to talk about them with. And right now, not a lot of people are around each other and able to talk about them. So what do you do when you don't have someone to talk about them with? If you're an avid Letterboxd user like me, you read reviews on Letterboxd. So I figured why not take a look at reviews that came out for a movie recently, Mank, directed by David Fincher, and see what people have to say about them, whether I agree or disagree, what my criticisms are of people's criticisms, if I think people's opinions are invalid, which they're not, and just generally see how people are feeling about Mank and how that compares with my opinion. Now, quick review of Mank. I'm a big David Fincher fan. He's probably in terms of style, in terms of making some of my favorite films of all time, he is up there in my favorite directors of all time, maybe even my favorite. I was really excited for Mank because he hasn't made a movie since 2014 with Gone Girl, but he returns to cinemas, or at least Netflix, with Mank, and I thought it was really good. I enjoyed Gary Oldman's performance. I enjoyed a lot of the writing. I thought that the old style of snappy dialogue was really well done. A lot of people can kind of mess that up and not make it all that compelling or really hit you with it, but I thought this was written really well. And then on a technical level, it's of course perfect. David Fincher is so anal and OCD about everything that he does with his films. I did think the pacing wasn't the best. I thought there were parts in the middle, I guess, where it got a little bit boring. But despite that, I really enjoyed where the movie went, and I think that this is kind of a step in a different direction for Fincher, because a lot of his movies are just so dark and so cynical, like to an absurd degree, where that's kind of the point. Like Seven is the ending of that movie. If you've seen it, there's no hope. But this is a lot more of an empathetic film from him. It takes a look at its characters and sympathizes with them, and also shows how the system that they're working in, old Hollywood, and by kind of extension, today's Hollywood, is really just broken and not at all something for creatives or people with new ideas, even though that's essentially what it should be and what it kind of touts itself as. And Fincher knows all about that if you know about the making of Alien 3. And the fact that it's not exactly the most cynical or dark thing is kind of a breath of fresh air for a Fincher film. We haven't really gotten that outside of Benjamin Button, in my opinion. That movie's not great. So I think Mank is a better version of David Fincher trying to do something that isn't hopeless and mind-numbingly cynical. And essentially, this is one of my favorite films of the year so far. I gave it a 4.5 on Letterboxd. Really enjoyed it. Now, I'm interested to see what people think on the site. Okay, so it has a 3.6 rating, average, and that is, I think, lower than I expected. I thought people were enjoying it a bit more, although that can kind of fluctuate a lot once the movie comes out. Okay, so I'm on the popular review section going through. The first one is from Karsten Runquist, who has a lot of popular reviews on this site. He gave it 3 stars and says, "This gets so much better as it goes. It starts on such an odd note where it reads like you walked into the theater an hour late. I think it's just so frantic in that first act, and the more it really starts to settle and invite you into what it's trying to do, you come around to it. There's a lot of good in here, but for someone like Fincher, a master at making the audience care about anything he throws at them, I was bored way more than I should have been." I mean, I don't disagree, in the sense that I already said I was kind of bored in like the middle of it, but I thought the beginning was pretty strong, if not like a little disorienting. It kind of just jumps right in. So I agree that it is frantic in the start, and then it, settles and you get more into what's going on. That happened with me, certainly, and the ending, as the movie went on, I certainly enjoyed it a lot more. The place I guess I disagree with Runquist here, where he says that he was bored because he didn't care about what was going on. I cared about what was going on. I wasn't exactly bored because the movie failed to have like compelling characters or anything. It's more just that it's a lot of conversational scenes and it goes on for a while. The movie's like 2 hours and 12 minutes. So I guess this is a difference of types of boredom, maybe. I think the characters were compelling throughout. It's just that there are just so many scenes. I think if the movie was trimmed down a bit, then it would have had a big difference for me. I think it's just that it's not the type of movie that aims its emotional highs for the middle of the film. It certainly comes at the end. And then the middle is there to, of course, set up. And, I mean, I enjoyed the setup. It's just that there was a lot of it. So I guess that's where we differ. Okay, so Demi, I don't know how to say that, said, "I did not enjoy or finish the 2020 film Mank and did not give it any stars." I mean, I can't disagree with that. If they didn't enjoy or finish it, they didn't enjoy it or finish it. Seems very clear cut to me. From Gabe, I didn't know Gabe. Hold on, I did not know that Gabriel Gundaker had a Letterboxd. Mank faces off against his greatest enemy yet. My attention span. No stars. I mean, it's a well worded and funny review, and I like Gabriel Gundaker. Uh, Again, not much to really say about it here. So cool. I now I've learned something. Taylor Williams gave it 4 stars and said every scene with Amanda Seyfried is the best scene. I would agree. She gave a lot to this film. I'm not really sure how I feel about Amanda Seyfried before this. She was never exactly on my radar. Never exactly wowed me. I liked her in First Reformed, I guess, which is the most recent thing I can remember her in. But in this one, I thought she was great. I think this is an easy Best Actress nom. I don't know about a win. I don't know how the competition for that is right now, but I thought she was great, and her character was one of the most compelling in the film. And yeah, every scene with her was like consistently good. Matt Lynch gave it 2.5 stars and starts it out with a quote: "Oh, Mank, are you ever serious? Only about something funny." That's a good line. There's a lot of very good, snappy lines, like I said, old Hollywood style stuff in this film. An ice bath sort of satire concerning the intersection of art, commerce, and politics, but made by this smirking misanthrope slash moralist as openly contemptuous of people's intrinsic flaws as he is completely obsessed with them. Ahistoricity isn't the problem here, nor the relentlessly affected period flourishes, some of which work and some of which super don't. Oh, I have something to say about that. I'll get to that in a minute. The real thing is that all this bickering and backstabbing and competing ego and attempted myth-making producing fucking Citizen Kane and its legacy, and Fincher characteristically thinks that's not only extremely ironic and funny, but also incidental, and you can't do that and also ask me to be curious or to be moved. Also, the really makes you think timely political parallels are trite, and whatever Oldman's doing, no sir, I don't like it. Okay, I mean, I like what Oldman's doing, just difference there of opinion. Where he said some period flourishes, some of which work and some of which super don't. I agree with that. There's a couple things that they did in this film to make it look more old and like it was shot on film, which it's not. It's on digital. Every Netflix film is on digital, and except for Marriage Story, and that really bothers me. And I think they all kind of look ugly. But this one actually didn't. I think it's because of the black and white. There were times where I certainly thought that it transcended that digital sheen, I guess, and felt like an older movie, and I wasn't really thinking about that. And I think that's something that is legitimately cool that they pulled that off, even if I don't know how much of that is carried by the black and white. But there were other things like cutesy fade outs, to mimic that style. And then the cigarette burns, which if you've seen Fight Club, you know what that is. And if you don't know, just really quick, it's a little circle in the top. Yeah, right here. In older movies, just to let the projectionists know that they have to switch reels. And it's in here. It doesn't make sense, partly because they're not shooting on film, and it's also not in theaters. I think it's a really weird decision. It would maybe have been cool to make that happen like once or so, but it happens like 4 or 5 times, maybe even more in the film, and I thought that was just maybe a little bit indulgent. I wasn't a big fan of that. The real thing is that all this bickering and backstabbing, competing ego, produces and gain its legacy, and Fincher thinks that's not only extremely ironic and funny, but also incidental. You can't do that and also ask me to be curious or to be moved. I don't know, because I mean, I love Citizen Kane. It's, one of the greatest films ever made. I think making a take on it that's, comedic and of the style of the times and all of that. I mean, like I said, there were missteps, I guess, that didn't exactly make it feel like something of the times, and that was a little bit distracting. But I think there were other places, like I said, that, it felt like an older film, like the writing. So I don't know. I don't think that the tone of the movie necessarily took away a whole lot of drama. I think that maybe if you wanted more drama in, like, Orson Welles getting more screen time and arguing with Mank more and that kind of stuff, then I get that. But there was a lot of stuff that I found really compelling about Mank and his arc, such as, uh, I won't go into spoilers, but the scene with that guy who directed some political films and stuff, and then the end of that arc. I thought that that was one of the best moments in the film. So yeah, I mean, I can't say that the tone of the movie necessarily made me less interested. I feel like it made me more interested because I like the stylistic approach. So I don't know. That's where I disagree. I don't know about the smirking misanthrope moralist thing. I know David Fincher is, a very cynically minded person, and that's what he's kind of getting at with this statement here. But I don't know. I don't think that this was necessary. I don't think Fincher was like the wrong person to do this. I don't think. Like I said, the tone was fine. David Ehrlich, 4 stars. Good movie, but give me Steve Kornacki busting out the big board and breaking down where all the little different bits of Citizen Kane came from. I assume that's from something. I don't know. Love David Ehrlich, though. Always trust his opinion, even if I heavily disagree with it sometimes. James Shafrias gave it 4 stars and said, why the fuck is no one talking about the fact that Bill Nye the Science Guy played Upton Sinclair in this movie? I highly doubt that, but let's do a quick fact check. Okay, I'm going to IMDb. He was right. What? Okay, Bill Nye was Upton Sinclair in this movie. I mean, he wasn't exactly like prominently shown, but that's cool. I didn't know Bill Nye. I guess I don't recognize his voice that well, but nice. I'm gonna give that one a like. I realize I haven't been liking these. Jim Cummings gave it 5 stars and said they let him make a love letter to his dad, and I think that's wonderful. I agree. I thought that this was a very personal film for Fincher, and that comes through very apparently. Especially because I struggled to really find like a personal connection to Fincher through his other films. Maybe that's just because they're not written by him. This one was written by his dad, so, obviously there's a bit more of a connection there. This film, like, aside from just being, like, made by his dad, who I believe is dead, and then, let me actually check that. Yeah, his dad, unfortunately passed away in 2003. Aside from it just being written by his dad and stuff, this also feels personal because it's about someone struggling with, the abhorrent and frustrating studio management in 1930s Hollywood, and Fincher is no stranger to studio fuckery. So this is obviously just a very relatable film to Fincher. And before, I think his films were relatable to him because he just, as Matt Lynch pointed out, he's obsessed with like people's flaws. I think this one works because he legitimately found something that he could get out of and relate to in here. And I don't really, like, I compared it to Benjamin Button earlier. I don't really know what Fincher's connection to that movie is. I don't really see what Fincher saw in that screenplay other than like a cool technical experiment or a way to work with Brad Pitt again, which I can't blame him for that. I want to work with Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt would be abhorred by some of the reviews on this site. I guess for something that seems this divisive where people are, 2.5 stars ish up to 5 stars, there's a wide range of opinions on this film. It's very, subjective as to how people are seeing it. There's not like a really strong like singular consensus on this, which I think is interesting. And while this doesn't change my opinion of the film or anything, I think it does kind of show what people are seeing in it, if they didn't like it. Just, it's not as good as some of Fincher's other films. Also more of a technical achievement than a well-rounded out story, which, I mean, you can have both. The Social Network is like one of those rare films that fires on all cylinders and just doesn't really miss a beat in any like specific aspect. So I get not enjoying this film too much. I get being disappointed by it. Like I said, even I kind of had some parts where I wasn't exactly super compelled by it, mostly in the middle. But I don't know. I think it's still worth watching. I think it's a nice, different film for Fincher to make. I think it shows a lot of growth for him, especially, if you look back towards Benjamin Button and this, I think it shows a world of change between how he approached these two films that are very Oscar friendly. So yeah, that's how I and a lot of people on Letterboxd seem to feel about Mank. If you've seen it, tell me what you thought of it down below. If you haven't seen it yet, Are you going to? I think you should. If you like David Fincher, or if you just like movies in general, I think it's a very entertaining watch. And if you're interested, you can follow me below on Letterboxd. I log every film I see. I'm trying to catch up on 2020 releases that I missed and some of the ones that just came out this weekend. There were a bunch. Next one that I'm going to do for this is Sound of Metal. You can check out my review of that on my page and my rating and all the films that I saw from 2020 and stuff. And then, yeah, if you liked it, like it. If you subscribed it, okay, thanks, bye.